Bearcat Bounce Podcast, back at it again. Happy Monday, guys. Monday before Christmas, leading into Christmas, leading into holiday season, leading into excitement, hopefully, leading into future tough competition, following past tough competition. Monday after a difficult loss to Stomach, Monday before signing day in football, Monday also following numerous new commitments out of the transfer portal in football, and also a Monday following a 40 burger from a basketball recruit. And we're live already in a Monday where there's only three of us. 1, 2, 3. Aaron can't hear us, but hopefully he will be back soon. That's right. We're kicking it back OG style, kicking it back old school today. No Royer in the mix. You had to get the late holiday rush in over at GE. Got to make sure everything's good for the Christmas season. But without further ado,
they designed Santa's sleigh this year, right? He's working late.
Something along those lines.
Yeah. They souped it up for him. It's got the switches.
Yep. The best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear, or going to GE and getting your sleigh fixed, which is where they currently are. I don't think that's something Danco Joe can do for you, Santa Claus. But hey, you know what? Without Royer, we must ride along. So without further ado, my guys, the OGs, Mr. Aaron Smith, Mr. Chad Brendel. Gentlemen, how are we?
Been better.
Yeah. Okay. Better. I'll take better.
How's the weekend? Been better.
Oh, you've been better. Okay. Been better.
Yeah. Been better. The weekend was all right. A lot of family time. Mm-hmm. Did some shopping with Kelsey, and some good stuff on Friday, and then Saturday had a little Christmas hangout with Kelly's family before heading down to US Dump Arena, or the Heritage Dump Center, or whatever you want to call it. Yesterday, not a whole lot. Well, Findlay Market action, since it was nice. And cooked some dinner, hung out.
Wow, how nice it was yesterday, and then today is a little winter wonderland out there.
That's how it works. As soon as it warms up, boom.
Just kidding. Wow.
Thanks, Tom.
Is that a new profile pic? Maybe looking good.
Where you been, buddy? We haven't seen you for a while.
I know. What you been doing?
Taking headshots.
There we go. must have been. Aaron, sir, how are we, buddy?
Good. Just got back from a weekend in Indy where I didn't contact you at all.
Oh, funny, man. It's hilarious. I'm not even angry about it. Let's be honest.
Brent's gonna hit you with, I'm not mad. Just disappointed.
Disappointed.
Very, very much so disappointed. But you know what? It is what it is. You win some, you lose some. But I lost my chance to see Aaron in the old 317 this past weekend, which is okay.
Sorry, Bob.
Best way to.
It was family Christmas stuff.
Hey, and the best way to spread Christmas cheer is not getting mad at Aaron, even though he was here. So we'll keep on keep on the show rolling without any ounce of frustration or negativity. How about that? We got to try to. We got to have some sort of positivity in this here spectrum, because I tell you what, it's hard.
I almost needed an auto care service on Saturday night, because I almost went postal and just started crashing into people trying to park for an hour at the banks 30 minutes after a Bengals game ended.
Tell me how you really feel, Chad.
You can't be mad at the
tip off.
You can't be mad at the team that won.
I'm not mad at. I'm mad at it being scheduled on a NFL weekend
Right.
being scheduled in proximity. Like the minute it went into overtime, if it wouldn't have gone into overtime, I think it would have thinned out a good deal by the time I rolled in there. But given overtime, as soon as it went to overtime, I was like, this is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
No, it's.
Did you watch the game somewhere, or were we just heading down there?
No, I was just heading down there trying to park to go into the
Okay.
arena.
Okay.
And you couldn't, it was gridlock. You couldn't move. And I like the thing that, so like I came in the back way, 471 to like 3rd Street and down, and I just needed to make a quick right and a quick left. And I'm like, I'm there. I'm where I need to be. And the cop's like, no. And I'm like, but I can see where I have to go. I can see it. And he made me go all the way down Marion Way and like loop around and gridlock, bumper to bumper, nobody moving traffic. And it added an hour. And I was not a happy camper. I walked in just ready to rage, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And then we get to our seats. I explained this already. We're in the 2nd row. There's a row in front of us on the same level. So you can't see anything because there's a row of people in front of you. And then 1 foot behind us is the Dayton student section.
Loud.
They had a good time. They earned it. I ain't mad at them. It's just, you see, those aren't great work conditions.
Who was the person you sat behind, and what's it? Were you able to have a decent view, or were you dodging left and right?
You couldn't really see worth a crap.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean that place obviously it's rough. It's got plenty of pub. The negative variety. I heard it was almost impossible to even get in. The lines were so long for the fans coming in as well. Obviously, a lot of talk about the whole 75-25, one fan base over the other, this, that,
It was not that. People have lost their stupid mind over that.
Yeah.
It was not, I mean, yeah, there were more Dayton fans there. We knew there were going to be more Dayton fans there. It was not 75-25. It was not 90-10. One half of the arena was UC fans. One half was Dayton fans. It was not that bad.
Well, there we go. But you know what? Speaking of one half, one way, one half the other way, the one half that did not go the Bearcats' way was the winning half. As you mentioned, you might have had to go to Danco transmission out of care before, because you were about to ram into somebody with the parking situation. But if someone afterwards was a little frustrated, and you know what, they had to take their car over to Danco Joe this morning and get a little fixing, or if you want to get someone something special right before the Christmas holidays. Maybe a free oil, not a free, but an oil change with $10 off, or a little fixing with 10% off. Head over to Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Tell them that Santa Aaron Smith sent you. That Chatty Claus told you to head on in. Tell them Royer, the little elf that could. That's up there making things last second at the North Pole. Tell them that he sent you. The BBP. Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Love you, Danco Joe. Let's just dive right into it, man. Chad, you and Keegan obviously had the quick recap after the game. We call those therapy sessions following the game. There was quite a few of those during the football season. Let's hope not the same amount in basketball. Well, if there is the same amount, that'd be a pretty damn good season, but let's not hope relative-wise, if you will.
Right. I'll take 11-7 in the Big 12.
Right, exactly. Hey, right on. That's it. You're dancing with that. But man, 82-68 bad guys. And to be honest with you, a 14-point loss is a little bit closer than what it felt like throughout most of the game. A little surge late by the Bearcats. Of course, they was able to sprinkle a little bit on top there to push it back out to 14. Man, that was a rough game to stomach, and one where the Flyers were They looked like the better team. They had Bearcats befuddled. Things just didn't go UC's way. Chad, we've gotten your synopsis. Aaron, you were saying on the nightcap last night how excited you were to hear Brent say, Aaron, what are your thoughts a couple days removed from the game? And now that you have been able to shut down your screen, and I'm the only one live on camera right now, as I guess we'll pass it back over to Chad. Okay, looks like we're gonna pass it back over to Chad because Aaron is having technical difficulties, a lot like what the Bearcats had on the court, a little bit here and there. Chad, just general observation. I've got some finer key points I want to dive into a little bit more, but just overall, it's just tough loss and one that the fan base is definitely diving deep into and coming out very frustrated.
I mean, honestly, I keep going back to the defense, man.
Yeah.
The defense has been fine, except for Xavier and Dayton, which is a concern because those are the two best teams you played.
Yep. And
they have shredded Cincinnati. I mean, it has been a parade to the foul line. It's one of those like where I didn't think the whistle was even.
Right.
But I thought Cincinnati was called for fouls. I just thought Dayton fouled and didn't get called.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't think that they called the things on Dayton that they called on Cincinnati, which left me like with an uneasy feeling about like how the whistle went. But ultimately, you've got to be able to be solid defensively, and Dayton goes on that little run to start the second half. I mean, it was a 1-point game at the final media timeout of the first half.
Yeah.
I think it was 26-25, something like that. And then Dayton just dominated the next 8 minutes. The 4 minutes going into half, and then the 4 minutes coming out of the half. Dayton just dominated. But Cincinnati could never claw back into the game because they couldn't get stops. I mean, Dayton, it felt like, scored on almost every possession, and it felt like they were getting the ball wherever they wanted. And that's what led to the fouls, is Cincinnati couldn't stop Dayton from getting to their spot, and then they're reaching or they're hacking to try to alter the shot or keep them, because it was almost, it felt like it was almost all shooting fouls, didn't it?
Yeah. The whole thing about this game, obviously, that the free throw situation was tough, and then you could compound that with Dayton hitting the amount that they did makes it feel even worse.
Well, they're a good shooting team, so
they are. Oh yeah,
you can't send them to the line, especially Kobe Elvis. Like, he's gonna make free throws. He can
14
shoot.
14 of 14. Yeah.
Yeah, you send him to the line 14 times. You're just giving them an advantage that's going to be near impossible to overcome. And they continue to do it. Like, it didn't go away. It wasn't something that was like a blip. It was something that carried over from first half to second half. And it put the Cincinnati offense. Was the offense good? No. But that was a slower pace game. And they still averaged over a point per possession. Like, it wasn't like they were terrible offensively, but they were so bad defensively that it almost didn't matter what the offense did.
Yeah.
Because they just weren't able to keep within reach at any point in the second half.
Yeah. And another thing was, the fact that coming into the game, Kobe Brea obviously is the one. They have multiple good 3-point shooters, but Kobe Brea is their best 3-point shooter. And all 4 of his makes were relatively wide open.
Yeah.
Good, easy release, easy shots. And of course, he switched every single one, but it was just goes back on the defense. And, there's going to be more with a topic that I want to bring up a little bit later. But, one was like, it was Odie on Brea, and then there was a little bit of a screen between that got Odie and Vic mixed up. And it's just like, okay, why are Odie and Vic the 2 players that are out defending Brea, who is a known 3-point shooter, and they
I
both
think
get lost, and it's literally wide open, easy shot for Brea.
I think some of this, Brent, Wes is in a tough spot right now because they're not defending ball screens well in man, like straight man.
Right.
They're not getting over screens well enough. They're not able to stay connected. So then you try to switch. And then when you switch, you end up with, a guard on a big. And then you can set those ball screens that leave you in a situation where Odie and Vic are defending a guard and a big and a ball screen. That's not going to work. Like, it's not going to get it done. And I can see Wes is scrambling. Wes doesn't ever want to play zone.
Yeah.
They played 6 possessions of zone by my count. They could have been a little bit more. I counted 6. They gave up 3 layups, 2 threes, and a trip to the free throw line. Dayton was 5 for 5 from the floor and 2 for 2 from the free throw line in the 6 possessions that I counted. Cincinnati was in zone. They're defensively, they've got to get some stuff figured out, because guess what? When you look at the Big 12, it is a monster league defensively.
Yeah.
Defensively,
right.
It is a monster league. So you're not going to be scoring 78, 82, 84 points regularly in this league.
Right.
You're going to be, if your offense is playing well, you're going to be in the 70s, 74, 75, somewhere in that range, which is good offense.
Mm-hmm.
But if they play defense like this, and you cannot continue, I mean, what? Quincy Oliveri and Davion McKnight combined for 47, I think, 27 and 20.
Okay.
I think was that total. And then the 2 Dayton guys, 55.
Holmes and Kobe.
Holmes
Elvis,
and Elvis, 55, I think, 28 and 27.
Yep.
If you can't stop, we saw it with Howard, Seth Towns went off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you can't, you're not going to stop the other team's like best player, but if you can't frustrate them and they are just getting whatever they want, it ain't going to work. And Randy, I disagree. Dayton was not in control from the tip. No. It was 26-25 at the under 4 at the final media stop of the first half.
It was like 8-3
in the
first little segment. Yeah.
It wasn't a slow start. It wasn't a game that they got punked early. It's, for whatever reason, in the middle of that game, Dayton just exploded, and Cincinnati could not get a bucket and could not get a stop. And, the other thing I'm concerned, I've got a list. We're going to get to Aaron in a second, because now that he's back, I want to get to him. They're not turning anybody over.
No.
Like, that's one of the things that's supposed to be the strength of this defense is turning folks over and turning defense into offense. They had 0 fast break points. Dayton had 7 turnovers?
Yeah, so they are 277th in turnover percentage so far on the year. And think about that. That's against a lot of cupcakes that you should probably be turning over a lot more than you are. But yeah, in this game in particular, Dayton, they only had 6 turnovers.
6.
Yeah,
I was right around it. 5 and 7. I just
Bearcats at 7.
Yeah. So I just don't like. They're going to have to figure out defensively what their identity is and what their calling card is on defense, because right now, whatever it is bad.
Yeah. And
not kind of bad. Bad.
It's strange, though, because you look at just the pieces, and I think this is what really frustrates Wes, too, is because, he talked about it in the postgame press conference about how much length they have and how they have a distinct size advantage over most teams in the entire country. And on ball, Newman is a fantastic on ball defender. Day is a pretty doggone good on ball defender. Then you have Jizzle, he's disruptive. He uses his hands well, and he's going to grow into being a really good defender. And then, of course, you have Aziz in the post, who's a great help side blocker and just can use his size and athleticism to become just a deterrent at the rim. But somehow they haven't been able to figure out any, like even Dan, and I know we're going to talk about Dan later. Dan's at a bit of a struggle right now, but he has size and length. You just continue to go down the list, and just what is it you think that they just can't find out the certain way to make things mix? Is it the two bigs on the floor at once that makes the passing off all these screens, and now all of a sudden you have mismatches once you just switch the screens instead of fighting over them? I'm trying to figure out if you have enough individual pieces that can potentially hide a defender or two that struggle a little bit.
Yeah, but when they go small, they're not defending either. So it's not just a matter of when the two bigs are in, they're struggling to defend.
Right.
They're struggling to defend every possession.
Period.
Yeah, which is why Wes was visually frustrated, because he said we tried everything, and he's mentioned how they aren't a zone team, and I think we saw why. How he stressed how he wants to be a physical man-to-man defensive team, but I mean, like Keegan said in the therapy session, it did seem like every time that Dayton tried to attack downhill, it was either a layup or a foul. And Holmes is a mismatch nightmare. I mean, he's an NBA player.
There were kickouts for open threes involved in there as well.
Right. Holmes is a mismatch nightmare, and if he's going to go downhill on any big, it's going to be trouble for the big he's going downhill on. But still, it just seemed like everyone was able to get downhill. I don't know. Wes, I understand the frustration that he had, because they threw everything at the wall and nothing truly stuck at all.
No. I mean, and it felt like even when Dayton didn't score, it was because they missed. Like, it wasn't because UC dug in and got a stop. It was because they missed, because they were shooting on the worst rims on earth on both ends of the floor. I mean, there's some jokes I could make about those rims that'll get us demonetized. They were bad. I mean, you saw it. I noticed it within 30 seconds of getting to our spot and standing under the rim. You could see, like, nobody was getting a bounce at all.
Well, it seems like anywhere but the Maui Invitational, most neutral court rims are just they're tough. They take some getting used to.
Well, somebody pointed out it looked like if you looked at the shot clock, it didn't have the red light around the shot clock. Like, it literally, those are backboards that have been sitting in storage.
Right.
That the only time they come out is once a year for the Harlem Globetrotters. And other than that, they haven't been used for a real basketball game in a decade.
Right. Aaron, are you live? You back, brother?
I'm good. I don't know what. So I can behind the curtain. One of the kids got a new light or something for Christmas at family Christmas this past weekend,
and
I keep getting it's Bluetooth, and I keep getting notifications in the corner saying add new device, and I keep hitting X, and no matter how many times I keep hitting X, I don't want this new device added. For whatever reason, I keep dropping audio. So I had him go unplug the said light in his room. I don't know what's going on with that, but we're gonna get that figured out. That all said, I wanted to start off just saying that I love renewing this rivalry, and I hate it at Heritage Bank Arena, but I think that this rivalry needs to stay alive. It needs to continue to be a thing. I wouldn't hate if Dayton became a team that's just always on the schedule again. It's the third longest schedule for Cincinnati out of all of their rivalries. I think that you should keep it alive, even if it's not an every year thing, maybe 2 years on, 2 years off, 2 years on, whatever the case may be. I think you need to do what you can do to keep that alive. It's good for the region. Just Heritage Bank Arena ain't it. I'm curious, Chad, could you feel the fact that the court was on top of an ice rink?
Yeah, it was chilly.
So I don't know if that had any effect. I know teams do that, but I can't imagine that that's a natural feeling court. I don't know what that affects the ball or the court or
there's a lot of NBA arenas that have the ice underneath too. I think it's
NBA arenas don't actually care about basketball during the regular season though until they get to the playoffs.
Right.
But I digress. I don't know when the last time was I saw Cincinnati shoot the ball 73 times and only make 27 of those shots. That's insane to shoot 24 more times than the other team, while allowing the other team having 24 less shots to shoot damn near 50%. That's outrageous. All of those stats combined is outrageous to me.
Yeah, it's like 3.2 point. Like they didn't need to make as many shots because they made so many of them, and UC did not.
But absolutely insane. Cincinnati obviously wins with the rebounds, but when you're shooting that many shots, I guess you're the other team's running down the floor. I don't know.
Well, UC had a massive size advantage on the offensive glass.
It was just the watching the game while I was trying to partake in Christmas dinner and all of that. I was kind of a recluse during the game, but it was frustrating enough that I stopped paying attention about halfway through the second quarter, and that's when they went on their run. I look back down and I'm like, oh, now it's 8. What's happening here? I did notice though they started playing Jizzle and Day at the same time this game, but not to make excuses for this team, but this team has been going through the ringer as far as the roster construction goes. When you add Aziz, just still only 6 games ago, now you add Jamil Reynolds, his first game in. You also had Simas Lukosius get hit by a car, so you lost him for a game and a half, I guess, if you want to call it that. I'm wondering how much of his legs are under him at this point. So teams have injuries. I'm not trying to make that an excuse, but they're still figuring out rotations. They're still figuring out all of how the team chemistry when you have different guys on the court. I don't know how much they were actually practicing with Aziz and Jamil while they were not actively on the roster. I imagine that there was still some practice time where those guys were in, but
there was, but it's really hard to do game prep with guys that aren't going to be in the game. Like it's, you get into that, like that 2-day window before the game. The day, like 2 days before is like the install of everything. And then you're drilling down the day before the game on the game plan and then the game. So yeah, they're there and they're practicing and they're going through drills and they're part of the team. But once the season starts, there's not a lot you can do.
Right. Yeah, well,
without them being on scout or something, right?
You saw during the game.
No, scout doesn't even matter. Like then they're doing what the other team is supposed to. Like they're not getting any work on
normal reps. Yeah.
Because even on game days, it would be
a walkthrough.
Aziz would go through a personal workout before game. Jamil would have the personal workout after the game. So it's kind of like, not really in the mix. I see what you're saying, Aaron. And I think also another thing about Jamil, first off, what's your guys' overall general impression? I mean, Jamil only logged, I think, 7-8 minutes?
7 minutes. Yeah, 7 minutes.
But 8 minutes. Yeah. But still, thoughts on just Jamil's first appearance as a Bearcat? First off, obviously awesome to have him back. Awesome that decision was made last week.
Wow. Starting out with the dunk was awesome.
Yeah. It reminded me of the Aziz block and then oop a little bit later that they kind of welcomed him to Bearcat land. And then obviously, the offensive rebound and flush by Jamil. But just kind of, Chad, obviously you've seen a lot of Jamil during practices and whatnot during the off season. Thoughts on how you think he's going to be able to roll and fit in the rotation and just his overall first game. Obviously, it's a little tough against, a team like Dayton that's a pretty good team, and all of a sudden you're thrown into the mix trying to get the rotations underlined as you're kind of on the fly, if you will.
Do you challenge yourself that like how long a question can be?
Not normally. It's probably the energy drinks that kind of rev me up. So
like you asked the question, and then I went to go into the answer, and then you described the question that you asked for 90 seconds.
Let me try it again. Hey, Chad, what are your thoughts on Jamil's first appearance as a Bearcat?
I think there were a couple good things. See, that was chef's kiss. why this podcast goes 2.5 hours every.
This one will not be 2.5 hours.
No. uh, but I think it was okay. Like, you could see what they want to do with him. He was only 1 for 5, and that play was kind of a ball that just came right to him, and he dunked. You could tell he didn't have his rhythm back to the basket in terms of absorbing contact and being able to go up and make a shot.
Right.
But the one thing with him that you just notice immediately is how much bigger he is than everyone else. Like, that's the joke of why I call him an aircraft carrier, because he just he's one of those dudes that he stands next to somebody that is big and makes them look small.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I mean, he is just a monster physical presence that, hopefully as you get him up to speed, he puts you in a situation where you've got a little bit more continuity and a little bit more of an identity, because ultimately, like, that's what feels like is missing from this team is what are they defensively? What are they offensively? They're against Dayton and X, like, they're a flow team, and they never really got into much flow.
Yeah.
They didn't have the assist numbers were way down. There's a lot of one-on-one. There wasn't a lot of ISO where it was guys dribbling the air out of the ball, but there was no, the ball didn't pop.
Yeah.
Well,
It didn't feel like
there were a lot of possessions where I feel like they were only passing it once or twice against both Dayton and Xavier. They're not passing it around, letting the offense continue to open up.
right. That's what I mean when that's what the ball popping. That's like the basketball nerd term. You gave the fan.
Brent, I gave the Brent answer.
Yeah, the Brent answer is the ball is not there. You're not moving side to side. You're not moving the defense. They're back to the three of us. Like, this is how the three of us used to work. Remember? Poke at each other a little bit and have some fun.
Yeah.
But that, like, who are they? What are they like when they go into a game? What are they looking to accomplish? And I don't think, some of it is a lot of new faces. Some of it is Aziz getting eligible after 4 games, Jamil getting eligible after 9 or 8 or whatever. Like, there's been so much flux that they haven't been able to use November and December to come out on the other end with, like, this is what we do. This is who we are.
Right.
So I have a question in regards to a topic that I've been a little heavy on, and that's trying to figure out the Jizzle and Day situation. Can you start? I wonder, just to get the best out of both of these guys at this point, it feels more to me like Jizzle's a first half guy and Day is a second half guy. Can you start Jizzle in the first half, start Day in the second half, and get the most that you can out of the point guard situation?
I mean, Chad, I'm interested to hear what you say, but I don't think it's more about a starting thing. I think it's kind of also a situation where it's like, everyone has their own individual storyline within the team, if that makes sense. Like, it's Day-Day's first year at this level. Jizzle is freshman. And then you add in all the other players who have all had their individual starting, Dan in sophomore year trying to figure it out after a hot start. You have all that stuff going on with Aziz and Jamil. It does feel like both point guards at this point are they're pressing to really find their way to have an identity on the team. Neither are really looking to create for a pass. Both seem to be just creating to score. I don't know. Maybe that's just their game.
I agree, actually.
That's what the game.
Some of it's also nobody stopping them getting to the rim.
Yeah, when they're going and they're on. Yes, definitely. It just the assist numbers as a whole against the higher level teams seem to be down. It just seems like it kind of, and that probably has to do with the ball popping scenario and things of that sort.
Well, in flow, your point guard's not going to be the one with the ball in his hand all the time. It's moving.
Right. Yeah.
So you kind of want your point guard a lot of times to be like the hockey assist guy.
Mm-hmm.
The point guard gets the ball moving, the next guy gets it into scoring position, and the third guy scores. But you're right, they're not out there. They didn't come here to pass.
Right.
They're not in college to pass. So I think that's some of it, but I don't think that, like, for me, that is not something with either of those guys that's going to change.
Yeah.
That is who they are. That's how they play basketball. Like, that's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
It's not great. And I only say that because, I mean, I don't know how else you get your assist numbers up if the guy who's coming up with the ball is looking to score first as opposed to pass first.
Yeah, but you don't want the design of this is it's 4 or 5 passes before you're in position to score, is what I'm getting at, Aaron. It's not the guy that has the ball passes and then the guy he passes to shoots. Like, they want the ball to move and everybody to touch it. Like, they want to move the defense. And right now, for whatever reason, like with Dayton, they talked about Dayton was overplaying the passing lane on the wings. If that's all it takes to throw you out of your offense, you're in trouble in the Big 12, because just everybody will just, okay, we're going to overplay the wings and they won't be able to do anything.
Right. And they like that, like where they bring Aziz up or whoever's playing the 5 at the top of the key, give it to him.
Yeah, that's to get the ball moving.
Right. So, and that's, I know that's part of the movement in the offense, but Dayton literally pulled the defender all the way back to just completely take away anything that would happen in the post. It seems like, there was no adjustment for that once that came into effect. So
I've never been. They did it with Vic before Vic was a shooter, and teams do the same thing. They would just sag, like, toes on the free throw line, and let him stand there at the top of the key and do this. I don't love that. I know why it's done.
Yeah,
but if it's being done by a guy that's not a threat to do anything with it offensively in that spot, I don't know what advantage you're gaining, by having him up there. Like, now with Vic, at least Vic can shoot it. Vic's got enough handle where if you're going to play all that far back, he's going to take 2 dribbles and body up with the guy that's, now kind of retreating at the free throw line. I think with Jamil, you can use him up there. I don't know with Aziz, like, nobody's scared of him there.
No. Especially because then if they rotated onto one of the wings, that second defender is already back there to deny any entry pass to Vic or whoever else is playing the quote-unquote 4 in that scenario. So, I don't know. It's just another thing. As far as Aaron, like, who to start in each half, I don't think it really matters.
Well, I mean, I guess just we're starting to see a pattern is what I'm getting at, where Jizzle is honestly, I think, playing better in the first half, and Day has shown better numbers in the second half, and that's becoming a thing of regularity. You've seen it now in a couple
either
games.
Were good in the first half.
I think you got to tell both to just go balls to the walls from the get-go. Like it seemed like Day flipped that switch in the second half. You saw him get downhill a bunch, and it's like, okay, if you could show that you could do that, why not go for that? I think he kind of he shot once in the first half, I believe.
Yeah,
it's just kind of I don't know. It's interesting to see how they both kind of have that MO. I think they worked fine together. I'm interested in your guys' thoughts on.
I thought they looked pretty good
on that. Together. Yeah, I mean, it just was a lot more disruption out on top defensively, and then I mean, Jizzle's pretty doggone good at mid range. They both can get to the basket. Neither's really a knockdown 3-point shooter at all, but teams at least have to somewhat respect it. Enough where they got to close out a little bit when they're open from beyond the arc. So I thought it looked really good, and then I think that would open up a lot more getting into the lane and building offense based off that. So I think we'll see more of that as things trickle on.
Yeah,
Chad?
I mean, like I talked about, they were not ready to do it yet because they were still, getting both of those guys up to speed at playing the one.
Right.
I think they're comfortable enough now that it's like, okay, we can start to incorporate like what we would want them to do if they were in at the two a little bit more. So I do think it's something, you're gonna start to see a little bit more often. I liked what I saw of it against Dayton.
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't get to pay enough attention to the game to be able to give you a really good read on how they played at the same time. I just noticed they were both
looked
in.
good. It looked good.
And the one thing you have to worry about with Jizzle as a freshman, he still kind of ball watches off the ball. Like he's good on the ball and does a pretty good job there, but off the ball he can get lost for stretches as an off-ball defender. So if you're asking him to play the two, guess what? He's going to be off the ball quite a bit more defensively.
We saw that late in the game on Saturday. Your guys' thoughts on kind of, Chad, you and Keegan started to get at this a little bit. I want to kind of expand it a tiny bit more. Kind of the go-to player on the team, not necessarily the guy that, who's going to be the one to take the last shot type scenario, but who's going to be the one to like kind of get offense flowing when things are not flowing, if you know what I mean. I
mean, Seamoss is the best guy they have for that role.
Right. So when is he going to take the reins and be that guy? It seems as if right now in spurts he is, but I feel like it needs to be a little bit more in order for things to really get going.
I think so too. I agree.
Aaron,
but like even if you look at that team from across town, like Quincy Oliveri was having that problem to start the season.
Right.
And then the crosstown shootout, it kicked in, and the guy's been just lighting everybody up ever since. I mean, 3 games. I think he's had 25 plus in all 3 games. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to just walk in and I'm the guy.
Yeah.
Like some of it has to develop. Some of it has to be natural. And he had the foot injury, and then he got hit by a car. And, I think that, that's 3-4 games of action where he was either limited or out, that he wasn't really able to like assume or grab that role.
I don't know. I just would be happy to see. I know Xavier had talked about it after the loss to Delaware, where they said that they felt like a leaderless team. There's times where I feel the same watching this Bearcats team. I feel like John has been around the longest out of anybody. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, I don't know that he's necessarily the vocal leader that we've seen.
I think he's a lead by example guy.
Yeah. And so I don't feel like I see him out there, barking at anybody or pulling anybody in or anything like that. I think he's just out there grinding. And this might be his worst game of the season. So that's not a knock. I mean, obviously a knock in that it's his worst game of the season, but he's been really good even in losses. Or I guess the other loss. But I don't know. I mean, I don't see, and I wonder if we'll see some of that with Jameel now being eligible, as he seems like a guy who plays with fire. And I feel like when we saw the games that we saw against Temple, I feel like he was kind of that guy. And I don't know if we're going to see that out of him. But I don't know who else you would expect that other than Seamoss to be that guy that is kind of the loud vocal leader. And I don't know, kind of to Chad's point, that Seamoss has the natural body of work thus far wearing a CPAW that he's able to do that.
What about Vic?
I don't think he wants that role.
Yeah, throughout the first handful of games, it was like Vic was going to have a potential all Big 12, one of the teams, see his name there, be the one Bearcat to be in the running for it. it just seems as if the development of the 3-point shot, it's been a gift, and it's been a positive. It seems like it's also been a bit of a negative at times as well. Knocked down a bunch early in the year, especially in that Georgia Tech game. Now all of a sudden it looks like he's kind of forcing some from deep, and also just completely taking him away from the basket as well. Your guys' thoughts on how they can get Vic back into kind of his bread and butter, which was, being able to score around the basket?
I mean,
I think.
Go ahead.
I'd correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure you will, but I wonder how much of it is just Vic getting used to playing with the other bigs around him. I know people are talking about how us playing two bigs at the same time has been clogging things up. You still have only played 5 games thus far with Aziz, maybe 6, and you've played 1 game with Jamil. Odie learning his new role where he's coming off the end of the bench. I think it's just a matter of reps. Plus, you're still working things out with your guards, even where now you've started playing both Jizzle and Day at the same time. You're still just working with rotations, and I don't know. It's late in the out of conference to still be working on rotations, but this team didn't have a choice.
So the hardest part when you play Vic and Aziz together is that if you playing 2 bigs on the block doesn't work anymore. It clogs up spacing. There's no room. Your guards can't drive. Right. When there are entry passes into the post, it's an easy double and recover, or you can shade and be in position for a weak side block. You can't move Aziz out there because this guy's just not going to go. He's not going to, it's not a threat. He's not going to go. He's going to stand at the free throw line and essentially just be an extra defender.
Blueprint is out, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even a blueprint. It's just, it's 2 seconds to scout his game.
Right.
That you don't have to guard Aziz inside 15 feet. So you don't.
Right.
So the only way to create spacing when they're both in the game is to have Vic on the perimeter. I think some of what we need to see more of is Vic being understanding that he can catch and go from there.
Yeah.
Like he's creating the spacing because he's pulling his guy out, because you do have to respect his 3-point shot.
Right.
You can't just stand 10 feet away from him and let him, just stand there and get set. So Vic is the one, when you're playing the 2 big set, that gives you the spacing that's necessary, but he has allowed himself to become too one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have seen him before catch, square up, and then take 2 or 3 dribbles and have his man on the block.
Yeah.
So if you're playing them together, my point being, it's very difficult to post Vic up. Mm-hmm. If you're playing Vic and Aziz together, or even Vic and Jamil together, because the weak side big, the backside big, does not have to provide spacing. They can just hang, like I said, 1 foot in the lane, stand somewhere 15 feet, and be a lot, you're loading the box, as coaches call it. So that's why Vic is out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are ways outside of having him just stand there and be a stationary 3-point threat that he can still be effective from out there by creating some trouble for the defense. Because right now he's standing, he's setting screens and standing.
Yeah.
Because he's not instructed to go down low in those points, because it stalls the offense even more. And that's where I think a lot of, people frustrated saying you can't play 2 bigs. I think that's where it's coming from, is essentially you have these 3 guys and only one of them has at least somewhat of a reputation of spacing the floor. Now, Jamil can shoot it out to 3, but I don't think that's necessarily something you want your 6'11 and a half, 265-pound monster,
right?
25 feet from the rim launching threes. So it's it's difficult because there's not a lot of flexibility.
No.
And I think that's what people are frustrated with when you have multiple bigs on the floor and they're not skilled.
Right.
You know, I think you could run 2 6'10", 6'11" guys if they both can stretch you and they both can put it on the floor a little bit. And they both can, you know, Jamil, the one thing we've seen and heard is he can really pass out of the block. So we haven't seen that yet because he didn't play enough time. But just schematically, from an X's and O's standpoint, it's difficult to create space if you're playing with two big guys, one of whom can't draw his guy anywhere outside of 10 feet.
They need to, and I'm sure they have. And Wes has mentioned Jamil being one of the best passing bigs he's seen. So they need to really work on the big-to-big passing. I don't know. Something I kind of saw a little bit was the fact that it seems like all the bigs, for the most part, when they are near the post, is they back their guys down. They aren't really, you know, face-up players to the point where they can see the other big open. Numerous times when Vic had it in the post, Aziz was wide open underneath the rim. He did find him that one time with a good big-to-big pass, but that's something that needs to be there a little bit more too if you're going to go with two bigs. But yeah, if Jamil can add that dimension as well, the more he gets involved in. You remember back in the Georgia Tech game, Aziz's first game, he didn't start, came off the bench, and all of a sudden he's been in the starting lineup every single game. I'm sure the same thing is going to happen with Jamil, where his minutes get ramped up a little bit more, which leads me to the next question is rotations. Rotations and kind of just overall numbers being spread out. Obviously, what you hear the whole basketball talk in college basketball is when February hits and going into March, teams, you know, shorten up their rotation because they know that, okay, this is what's going to happen. Everything's going to ramp up. We need to have our best rotation out there, best 8 guys, this, that, and the other. Do you feel like that sense of urgency is kind of kicked up a little bit now because it's the Big 12 and you need to figure out the best way to kind of not necessarily shorten the bench, but get the right players out there to win these tough games?
I will also add this. You know why the reason most coaches say you only want to play 7, 8 players is because they only have 7 or 8 players that can play.
Yeah.
I mean, put Cincinnati, like they've got legitimately what they believe is 10 guys that can contribute.
Right.
And that you want to get in the game. But then you start to deal with, like, are you leaving your guys long enough? Are they on the floor long enough to get in a rhythm?
Right.
Are they on the floor long enough to get hot and stay hot? So I don't think you're going to see this team all of a sudden play 8 guys.
Right.
Like, you didn't go through what they've gone through for 6 months to not have a team that has depth.
Yeah.
I think the key is, like, right now, what are you trying to accomplish offensively? And then I think when you figure that out, you figure out what your best offensive lineup is. The problem is, what are you trying to do defense? Like, right now, if you want my honest opinion, figure out who's going to go out there and defend, and the rest can work itself out.
Yeah.
You have got to figure out a way to get stops. And if there are 2 or 3 guys that on tape are causing the breakdowns, then they have to see their minutes cut. Right. Because if you're giving up, and they gave up in the 80s, easily in the 80s to Dayton and Xavier. Mm-hmm. There are a lot better offenses than Xavier in the Big 12. And Dayton is about, like, what you see, what you think you're going to see on most nights is a Dayton level offense. And both of those teams just kick Cincinnati's defense right in the teeth.
Yeah, that's the tough thing.
But that's when we do those exercises, everybody's like, all right, well, this is who I want on the floor. And it's 90% of the time, like, I want the best offense on the floor. Mm-hmm. You don't have Jacoby Walter. Like, you don't have a 30-point a night, 25-point a night guy on any given night.
Yeah.
So give me the defense right now and go from there and figure out the rest. Who makes us the best defense we can be, and put those 5 on the floor and navigate from there, I think is my stance on it.
You know, we magically hit the number, the 10 games in where we can, according to Wes, what Wes says, where he doesn't really trust Ken Palm until you're 10 games in. So we've hit the threshold. There is only 4 teams ahead of Dayton in offensive efficiency, but I mean the offensive efficiency went way up after this past Saturday for them
because they were offensively efficient.
To an extreme, to an absolute extreme.
I was almost expecting it in the 1-4s or 1-5s when I looked at it.
Yeah.
It felt like that.
I don't know. I guess, you know, also, is this the time of the year where you look at just overall plus minuses in games?
Or you don't ever look at it in games.
I mean, like as a whole, adding it all up.
I think you can start. I think you're starting to get enough of a data point. Yeah.
Yeah. Because obviously adding Jamil in, you've seen the numbers decrease for Josh Reed. You've seen Odie with 7 minutes and then Jamil with 8. I am interested to see. These next 3 games. The worst part is, and you know, I've been texting just other friends and even my family about this because it's been sad, but it's where these next 3 games, they're all just, you know, crap teams, and it's where if a win would have happened on Saturday, you can go in watching these games, how excited you are to see Jamil get his feet underneath him, to see the cohesion happen. But now you're just looking at it like, gosh, I wish they played someone with any sort of substance in these next 3 games before BYU. But I guess these next 3 games, one thing, we'll wrap up basketball talk with this. One thing that you would like to see happen on the team. Obviously, you can't really take too much away because, I mean, it's Merrimack, it's Stetson, and it's Evansville, and all 3 are not very good. But there's still something that you could like to see heading into that BYU game.
It doesn't matter,
right? I know, which is kind of where I'm at.
Well, then why'd you ask the question?
Because it's a podcast, got to talk.
It doesn't, like, it's not like, you know, we saw a lot of things that we thought we were going to be able to take into the Xavier and Dayton games, and guess what?
Yep,
we didn't. None of them worked. So I mean, yeah, it'll be nice to have a couple games for Jamil to get his legs under him, but I mean, you're definitely going to get better competition every day in practice than you're going to get from these 3 remaining games.
Yep. Agreed.
Thanks.
Aaron?
I just think that this is a time for, call it what you will. It's not great competition, sure, but it's an opportunity for them to tweak some things, see what they have in the rotation, see what they have as far as trying to open up the flow of the offense again, like it used to be. And I'd rather take that against 3 teams that you can beat regardless than have to.
The point being, Aaron, once you start playing top 5 defenses, top 10 defenses, like you're going to for the next 2.5 months, it doesn't matter what Merrimack did to slow you down. Like, I get what you're saying, and in theory, yes. But my point being, like, what works against Merrimack is not going to work against
Baylor. I guess my point is you can't simulate game time in practice. So at least this is game time with wins.
You also can't simulate Merrimack with Baylor.
I understand. It is what it is. Like,
I know.
That's why it's
hand you dealt.
I mean, that's why it's
dealt. Yeah.
I mean, think
it's kind of the hand you dealt yourself, though, right?
Well, you stack the deck.
Worst part is the fact that, you know, now the margin for error error is extremely it's gone for the most part.
There's no margin for error.
There's no margin for error. The Big 12 is a gauntlet. There's no doubt about that. And now you're going to have to figure out a way to maneuver through that gauntlet. I'll be interested to see if it is CMOS a little bit more, not ball dominant, but kind of the guy that gets things rolling. I know CJ Frederick has gone through what he's going through, but I want to see even more shot attempts for CJ Frederick. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of things that are left to be desired. But man, just after Saturday, I'm with you, Chad. Defense is first and foremost. If you can't defend, then you're not going to beat anyone.
The rest doesn't matter.
I'm just worried that they're not going to be able to figure it out in practice, because the things that you're not good at on defense is the things that you're like also not good at on offense. So by that, I mean, you're allowing guys to shoot open, and we're not finding those open shots. So like, it's just a mess.
I'd argue more, because I disagree to disagree more often than not.
Get that.
Getting to the free throw line. Like, this is not a team that draws a lot of fouls.
No.
And it's hard to practice drawing fouls when you're a team that doesn't draw a lot of fouls. And that's if you want to find the anomaly from the games that weren't Xavier and Dayton to the games that were, they don't foul bad teams. But
right.
They fouled the shit out of Xavier and Dayton, boy. And make no mistake, I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that is the fault of an official or an officiating crew. They are fouling too much. That is not placing blame anywhere else. I know people like to.
They did that in the Howard game too. I mean, you could say they did that in the Howard game as well.
Somewhat, yeah. Howard got to the line a decent amount.
It's crazy to look at these stats.
Yeah, you have to keep the guys that want to shoot free throws on the other team off the line. They have been terrible at it the last two Saturdays. Terrible.
Yeah. How about this, Chad? Kind of rolling with what you're saying. Florida Gulf Coast, yeah, bad team, but they only shot 3 free throws. Very next game, Xavier at Xavier, 26 free throw attempts. They made 22. Game right after that, Bryant. Yes, Bryant's terrible, but 9 free throw attempts. And then, of course, on this past Saturday, 30 free throw attempts for Dayton. They made 28.
That's disgusting.
And what I've also was getting at earlier, you're foul, like that gap you have between fouls 1 and 7 where they go into the bonus.
Yeah.
Like, those are dead ball fouls. Like, those don't kill you. Except Cincinnati's fouling shooters, and they're going to the line and making them. So the other team is essentially in the bonus from the first second of each half because Cincinnati keeps fouling guys in the act of shooting. And then they go to the free throw line. They're fouling good shooters, and they're converting.
Yeah. And let's tell our shooters to like pretend that they're at fifth third every time they fire up a 3. Just pretend you're there. Just shoot like
you want to know why? You want to know I was worried about the rims being tight?
Why?
Dayton's got a bunch of dudes that don't hit rim. Right? Like, they got a bunch of Cincinnati's got some guys that can shoot. Dayton's got some dudes that just hit net. I'm like, so that was my first thought was, well, Cincinnati as a 3-point shooting team is okay.
Right.
But they're not a bunch of dudes that just are ripping the net at all times. And Dayton has dudes that just rip the net. So it didn't matter how tight the rims were for Dayton. They weren't going to hit them.
I mean, the wild thing is that they had that Nate Santos, who they did a really good job defending. He came into the game like shooting like 54% from 3. And he didn't make one. But yet 2 of the other guys, of course, Kobe Brea is being the one, just wide open threes.
Well, he hit his 3 were in the first half and a couple at the end of the first half that, just wide open.
Yeah. It was.
Wide open.
It's crazy because the pieces are there. You can no doubt see that there is talent, individual talent on the team. It's just figuring out ways to mold them together. I don't think necessarily rotations will be chopped down anytime soon, but you do see different ways that they could win. But it's going to be defense. It's going to be offense. Got to figure it out. Anything else? Basketball, obviously. We'll have a lot to talk about in Big 12 season. That's for doggone sure.
Yeah, I mean, train's coming.
That January slate. Whew. Boy, oh boy.
Train's coming.
Boy, oh boy. For those of you that don't know, let me just give you a quick refresher. It's not going to take long. At BYU, Texas at home, at Baylor, TCU at home, Oklahoma at home, at Kansas. That's to open Big 12 play. Every single one of those teams inside of the top 34 in KenPom. Oh, man.
And all of them ranked in the human polls except TCU.
Yeah. We talked about Gauntlet. That right there is Gauntlet. Boom. So
yeah, but there's the stripe out and there's 90s night, so the crowd should be really into it.
You know what? Well, you win the stripe out game in the 90s night game. You feel pretty good about your stretch throughout that. For real.
Yeah, I mean those 3 home games, because your odds of winning at BYU, at Baylor, and at Kansas are not great, Bob.
I don't know. There's gonna be some special fans at Kansas, so who knows? We'll have to see.
I'll be working.
Oh, we're technically fans too.
I'll be working.
Right, professional fans.
Okay.
All right, let's timestamp this one.
That timestamp is brought to you by our good friends at Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company. For all your non-food products, they service over 150 restaurants with weekly, low minimum next-day deliveries. They provide a wide range of food service products from to-go containers, cups, custom printed products, eco-friendly, and much more. They also have cleaning and restroom supplies. For all your janitorial needs, call Nick, 513-470-2029, and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases.
Boom, baby. Before we roll into quick football talk, they want to mention, I kind of teased it in the opener, but how about that 40 burger that was put up this past weekend? Here's the thing. When you have the feeling of frustration, the feeling of we can't knock down shots, the feeling of we need help, then you see that a future Bearcat, when Tyler Betsy is able to flush in 40 points, and you watch the highlights, and sure, the team didn't look great that he played, but hey, that's 40 points, 40 burger. Hats off to Tyler Betsy. Going to be.
And there was an article this week up on the network, I think Deshaun London, who went and saw him play, and again talked about what I talked about in the summer was that on his AAU team, he was asked to be a spot shooter. Right. Dylan Harper, his point guard, was a guy that wanted to get downhill. They wanted Betsy to provide spacing, which he does because he's one of the best shooters in this class. On his high school team, he's got to be more aggressive. He's got to attack. He's got to put the ball on the deck. So it's I have said since the summer, it's going to be important to see how he handles that through his high school season. And to date, it sounds like it is showing the progress that, you wanted it to show.
Adam Finkelstein was the one who just give.
That makes sense. Adam's an East Coast guy, lives up near the Knapsack. So
yeah. He tweeted about it too. Said Betsy's back making moves. Would be awesome if he somehow slid into that 5-star threshold there at the mid.
He's been on the door.
Right.
A couple times.
40 burgers will help that. There's no doubt about it.
Also wanted to mention real quick before we get to football, the women's team is rolling. They're 7-3 right now, as they have one last game in out of conference on December 21st at home against Siena before they start their Big 12 play. opening up against Kansas State on December 30th. But sitting at 7-3, they won the shootout. They beat Kentucky, so they're rolling right now.
That they are.
5 in a row.
And shouts to I trying to find her name who joined the 1,000-point club on their team. I'll find it and give her flowers. But yeah, they are rolling. Big time taking down Xavier, so that's exciting to see. But I mean, the Xavier story have you guys? I don't know. It's wild. Xavier women's story, but it's a different combo for a different time. But
Sure.
Football, we have had a handful more of portal editions. Aaron and Chad, you guys kind of quickly highlighted them over on the nightcap last night, but since we last talked, Evan Pryor, running back, Ohio State, Jaden Perry, long snapper, Indiana State, Kai Stokes, Ohio State safety, Tony Johnson, wide receiver from Florida Atlantic, George Crumbs from Northern Illinois.
Gums with a G.
Gums, thank you. And Ormani Arnold, Idaho, cornerback. Seems like things are still kicking there. It's always funny to see the tweets that come out leading up to the commitment. It's a lot of that Moneyball talk, a lot of that finding the different little pieces of each player that they love, and kind of identifying not necessarily diamonds in the rough, but attributes that they think will help out the most and roll in. Out of the new commits, Aaron, you guys kind of highlighted them. Which ones kind of catch your eye the most out of the portal there?
I'm fascinated by Gums.
Yeah.
I would think that Evan Pryor is probably one that fascinates me, much in the mold of a Jerome Ford, having been at a very big-time school and having an injury and coming to Cincinnati, but highly touted when he was being recruited. And Kai Stokes was also a guy that Ohio State was super high on, and getting starting minutes as opposed to backup minutes, even as a 1B type, was clearly something that he valued.
Chad, go ahead.
I think they're checking the boxes that they need to check, and they're the one. I think the most important trend: all multiple year guys,
right?
Not taking a single 1 year, insert and then plan on ripping the Band-Aid off a season later. I think is important because it tells you they see this probably as a 2-year evolution between next year and the following year. Hopefully where Sorsby comes in, has some success, is able to build and then become like the entrenched starter in 25. And then you're going to have all these portal guys with the next group of portal guys and the freshmen. And now you're accelerating. Like, you're not just doing stop, start with 1 year guys. You're focusing on building something.
You don't want to have to rebuild your culture every year either. I mean, if you're getting one and dones, especially at these big positions,
here's also
like
something
you'd have to continue to rebuild that culture in the locker room every year.
Here's also something that's really important, Aaron. We've talked about all these guys that announced they're coming back and how it was important to establish your core.
Yeah.
Almost all final year guys.
There is that, obviously. But
so you want to build that next wave coming up behind them while you're in the process of enjoying having a bunch of veteran guys that know what it's about coming back. You're also, even though you might be aiming for 2025 to like be the ascend year, you are still going to be losing a lot of
dudes,
a lot of leadership more than anything. A lot of guys that you're going to count on now to establish the culture are going to move on after this year. So I think that's another important way to look at why you're seeing so many multi-year guys.
Which is awesome to see as well, because if you can see certain things that you like in them, put them in a strength and conditioning program that is at the level of Cincinnati's is. Nico Palizzetti, get him in line,
Hey,
get him revved up. Nico. We need Nico back on. By the way, that's one probably for the summer. But
no, I mean we'll get him back on here. The freshmen,
spring, yeah,
the transfers and the early enrollee guys will be
right.
coming in a couple weeks.
Yep.
So maybe late January, early February be a good time to dial back up the
Get
Nico.
your cutlets ready.
Yeah.
Get your cutlets ready. Yeah, you mentioned a guy, Chad, transferring in, had 4 catches for 44 yards in 2022. And then now he's coming in as a defensive end following his 2023 move to defensive end. Yeah, he quite
looks
the interesting
freakish.
guy. Yeah, he does.
I saw a picture of his photo shoot when he was on his visit.
Mm-hmm.
And as the person that showed me the picture said, that's what they're supposed to look like. Like, he didn't look like that when he got to college, but he looks like that now. Like, that's what they're supposed to look like. He's long. He's got a great frame. Like, he looks bendy. Like, it's what you want your edge defenders to look like. And he looked like it.
George Gums, NIU. Obviously a guy that Walt Stewart was all about him. Really, really highly coveted.
Also a guy that was pretty skinny coming out of high school. Not that skinny, but
yeah,
Walt knows a similar path.
Yeah, exactly. And Darian Beaver is another one that comes to mind from his rise. He had kind of a little bit more of a roller coaster body transformation, but this seems like, as you mentioned, a wide receiver / moved to tight end at Northern Illinois. Now all of a sudden playing that edge, and 3.5 sacks last year. Just obviously high potential, and you add him in. Nico's able to get his hands on him, add to what is already there as a baseline, and see what you can make him into. But definitely seems like a project that could be a lot of fun. Aaron, you mentioned both Ohio State transfers. When you have a guy like Kai Stokes who Bama offer, Auburn offer, Ohio State, obviously it just all the offers in the book, if you will. Yes, that's a pedigree that you like, and he was making plays as a true freshman, as you mentioned as well. I'll be interested to see how they morph in, how they work. Of course, you guys spoke about it last night, but Tony Johnson, wide receiver, had some good games last year. Seems like he's got a lot of speed, a lot of yak in his game. Jaden Perry had that one play at Purdue. Good snap, get down the field, blow up the punt return man, get the forced fumble. Sure, why not? Bring him in. And then Armani Arnold, looks like he's kind of added some weight to him. Some since high school came in, had a good year this past year at Idaho. Probably a quarterback could play some slot corner as well if needed. Just a good crop out of the transfer portal, but
I'm pretty sure he's a slot corner.
Oh yeah, slot corner. Okay. Now the question becomes: is it a dead period, right?
So right now it is a dead period. There can be contact like over the phone, electronic communication, but no in-person contact until January 3rd or 4th. One of the two.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. All of those guys obviously lead into what is going to be signing day on Wednesday. Chad has kind of highlighted what all is going to be going down. A lot of action, a lot of fun on BCJ Network. Having to do with signing day, and of course, a very special guest coming on the BCJ pod on Thursday as well. Honestly, you look at this class, they're not really getting as much pub as they should. I was burning some tape throughout the day today, and pretty much every single one of them had a pretty doggone good senior year. Chad, are we allowed to mention the early enrollees here, or do you want people to go to board for that?
It'll be out there on Wednesday, so it's fine.
Yeah, so we got quarterback Samaj Jones, who's Coming off of a state championship season, a fun stat about him, his career TD mark went over 100 total touchdowns. First time a city player has reached that mark since Kyle McCord. He hopped over him. 94 was the total for Kyle McCord. Obviously, the the quarterback last year for Ohio State. In the state championship, Samaj had 115 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, added 232 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. So he's big time. Kale Woodburn, wide receiver. Dakari Anderson, wide receiver. Kale had a good year, obviously, but Dakari, man, over 1,400 total all-purpose yards. Had 8 total touchdowns. Was a state champion. Was player of the game in the state championship. Just another really good player. Tight ends, both Devin Zahersky and Gavin Grover. Offensive lineman Jake Wheelock. Linebacker Simeon Coleman. And the defensive backs Jaquan Sanks, Gravy Johnson, and Willie Goodwin, who Willie Goodwin had a monstrous year. He caught 985 yards receiving and 14 touchdowns through the air, and then defensively added 61 tackles and 5 interceptions. When you look over this class as a whole, obviously there's going to be a bunch more coming later on this week. What are your general thoughts, Aaron, as it seems like it's kind of got that Big 12 feel to it, and kind of the ability to kind of see the talent identification and everything else that the recruiting staff has been able to do?
It's the first class that this staff has put together, and I think that it's one to be pretty excited about. The highest ever for Cincinnati. I think that it's lost on people that this is the highest ranked recruiting class ever by Cincinnati.
Well, last year's was going to be ranked higher. Well, it needs to be bigger because they're in the Big 12. It can't just be the best ever. It's got to be the best ever, Aaron. The best ever.
That's fine. But this is a class that I don't know that you're going to see a ton of guys come in and play immediately again. But I think that that's not a bad thing. I think that there's a couple different positions where you could see some guys push a little bit. But I think that you're largely going to have, again, just another, I think this will be the second class in a row where you're really starting to, once again, establish that culture in the locker room. I know Ryan's not here, but I feel like we have to hit our quota for the word culture enough times on this episode. But no, I think that real talk, they're bringing guys in that they like the character of. They're not just trying to fill a class as they were last year. And I think that they've had enough time to really put the work in and get the guys that they wanted to get.
All right. Chad?
I think that's fair. I do think they will try to find a way to get a decent number of these guys on the field. And I'm not necessarily saying in starting roles, but if things go like I think some of the people inside the program want them to go, I'm hearing more names that they think could be in line for a role. Not necessarily a starting role, but maybe a special teams role, maybe a role in the 2 deep. More so than we've heard from a freshman class in a while. Now, how much of some of that is related to they need to get the roster up to speed quicker? I think that could be the case. I mean, again, we've talked about this a million times. Mark D'Antonio's second year, he had a lot of freshmen that he knew he was going to need long term, and he put them on the field. And in Luke Fickell's first year, he found a way to get Derek Forrest out there. He found a way to get Kobe Bryant out there. He found a way to get Mike Warren out there so that those guys in year 2 were ready. And I think, none of those guys, well, Mike had a decent role his freshman year, but none of those guys were leaned on to be important pieces, but they were all guys that were pieces.
Right.
And then, they became major factors going forward after that. But I think there's something to let's find a way to get as many of these guys used to it as we can. So that'll be interesting as we go. There are a bunch of early enrollees. They're going to be behind just as the nature of the beast. But when we get to camp, I wonder, when we're writing two deeps,
Yeah.
how many true freshmen are we gonna see?
Yeah, I mean, they've got some talent on the wide receiver room coming in, obviously, that tight end room, a lot of talent. Yeah, I mean, look at Gavin Grover.
Backs.
Yeah, DBs as well. I mean, even a player like Corey Cafey led his high school, is all-time leading rusher there. That Monte Whedon was selected for the Under Armour All-American game. I mean, Garrison Butler had some eye-popping stats, like 21 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. It's a beast on the defensive line. It just seems like each one of them seemed to be somewhat of a hit. Even like offensive linemen, like Aiden Pastoriza, he won back-to-back state championships. That's a winner along the offensive line that's coming in. So that's just another invaluable thing. So it's going to be cool to see who all can make their move, because each one of them, like I said, they all popped on tape, and sure, it's high school, and they should be popping on tape. If you're committing to Cincinnati and a Big 12 school, you should be the one that pops. But it seemed like this is definitely a class that they hit, and one that they all had really good senior years. So I'm excited to hear more what both coordinators have to say on in your interviews with them, and then of course even more on Thursday as you guys continue to dive into all the classes and really actually see the a peel back of the curtain with the head maestro. Are you going to call Zach Billy Bean, or is that kind of used for someone else?
I'm not going to do that.
He's the one that keeps posting the Moneyball pictures in each one of his tweets. So I was like,
but I'm not going to do that. No.
Okay, sounds good.
This should be the first class that you get to play with on NCAA football.
Oh,
that's the only thing in life Aaron cares about. Genuinely,
I can't wait. It's July.
Literally, like there are so many things in life going on, and if there is one mention on Twitter of NCAA football 2024, Aaron's like, you want to talk about it on Nightcap? No, I don't. We've talked about it 73 times on the Nightcap before.
Not enough. We do it every day. It's not enough.
Not enough. But yeah, it seems like a lot of winners.
He's going to quit when it comes out.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, sorry, I don't have time for this shit.
No, I'll just
world famous. Yeah.
I'll do like Malik. Absolutely. I'll be here talking. I'll just be here talking. It's fine.
I'll say what? What was that? What was that, Brent?
Oh no, Malik didn't do any of that. No, he didn't do any of that. He carried on a conversation while he was playing, and I think even Evan
Malik is a double passer
chiming in. See, half court Henry gets it.
Well, I mean, I agree, and I'm going to go out and buy a system all because of this, and I'm going to be excited for it and go from there. I haven't had a system since I had my last one stolen. So
don't get me wrong, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just Aaron's reason to live.
Right.
I still play 14. I had the box right here. It's right here.
We know.
Shoelace, Denard Robinson. Yeah. A lot of excitement. Wednesday should be a lot of fun. Chad, I'm excited to see everything that you have for that. You want to timestamp this, and we'll morph on into the mailbag.
Morphin time.
This timestamp, as always, brought to you by Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company. For all your non-food products, they provide mostly disposable restaurant supplies, products like to-go containers, cups, pizza boxes, to-go bags, can liners, napkins. They've been open since 2009 and are one of the largest minority-owned companies in the city. Call Nick at 513-470-2029 and reference Bearcats to get 20% off your first month of purchases. Okay. My brain wanted to say 15, and I was like, that's not right.
All right.
I got a tinkle. I'll be right back.
That's great, because these questions are normally aimed at me and Brent.
Yeah, figure it out. The answer for most of the football mailbag guys, I'm just going to tell you now, is Zach Grant will be on the show Thursday night at 8:00.
Okay.
All right. Well, Brent, I think we can handle this first question anyway.
Okay.
But before we do that,
Home
since,
field apparel.
correct, Chad forgot that read before he ran off to do a little wee.
You've
But-
got the read.
Home Field Apparel is offering 15% off still when you enter promo code BCJ23. If you're looking for that last second, I don't know if you can still get it shipped in time for Christmas, as things tend to get a little sticky around this situation, around this time. But even that little bit of late Christmas present should be just fine, especially if it's that Home Field Apparel, the softest hoodie I own. Again, 15% off when you use the code BCJ23. Support the people who support us. Go to homefieldapparel.com. Get your gear for this season. That said, the first question in the mailbag. Brent, is earning a bowl invite in year 2 a must for Coach Scott Satterfield?
I don't know if I would call it a must, but at least an improvement in the win category. It's honestly not that hard to make bowls anymore.
No, 9 teams of the Big 12 of the 14 teams made
Yeah.
bowl games. 5 teams were left out.
I think you need to show improvement in the win column. You know what? Yes, I think I would love to see a bowl game. Love to see the Bearcats bowling, but a lot of that just pertains to how quickly the offense is able to pick up, and then the new pieces in the defense. So it's too early to tell, but I would say yes. Let's roll with that. A must.
I will say that the way that the question is worded, no, it's not a must, because the way that this contract is structured, he's not going anywhere after this season, regardless if he makes a bowl game or not. Now, that said, I think a goal that's not too lofty would be making a bowl game, and I think anything less than making a bowl game would be a disappointment. But Coach Scott Satterfield, to the chagrin of many people, will not be going anywhere this season, despite what that W and L columns say.
So I think it's a necessary sign of improvement, of moving forward, of gaining some confidence from the fan base. I think it's also important, like, are we talking less about Oklahoma State just dominated? West Virginia dominated them. You know, like, I need to see physically that they are better prepared for this year in the league than they were a season ago. I'm almost there. And if that means 5 wins and they look more competitive, you know, all the way through week 13, I will feel better about things. If we see 2 or 3 coin flip games and then a bunch of Cincinnati was never actually going to stand a chance to win that game,
yeah,
then it's not great, Bob.
I mean, Towson Tigers, Pitt at home, Miami Redhawks, Arizona State at home, Houston at home. I mean, you know what I mean?
I don't want to hear it, because I think we looked at the schedule this season and thought the same thing. And then the Big 12 went completely upside down and nobody had a clue what was going on. So, no, I don't know what you mean.
I understand that point of view, but come on.
Not going to get me twice on that.
Unless they pull some rabbits out of hats, some of those teams, it's going to be very difficult. But
they're saying that same thing about Cincinnati, Brent.
You know what?
Everybody else is saying that same thing about Cincinnati. We got correct. Cincinnati. We should win that game.
Licking their chops.
Agreed.
I'm not going to be putting 20 units on Cincinnati on 5.5 wins this year. No shot.
Don't tempt me with a good time, Aaron. Come on now.
I bet it's at 4. I don't think it'll be a 5.5.
I bet it's 3.5 or 4.5 for sure.
Yeah.
Which additional transfer portal positions does the coaching staff desire the most linebacker, tight end, or additional defensive back or wide receiver? And I will couple that with another question that comes up in a couple questions. But what remaining positions is the staff looking to fill from the portal?
Zach Grant, Thursday. Like, we can why take my, like, I can answer the questions, but the guy that makes those decisions outside of the coach is going to be on the network Thursday. Let's save the good questions for him. I do think they'd like all of those positions to be
But
added.
you don't have to take my word for it. But
Yeah, probably running back, wide receiver, tight end.
what freshman do you think will make the most immediate impact?
I think they really believe Gravy, Zavorian Johnson, can be a dude that can make an impact early. I've heard some positivity on Devin Zahersky, maybe not as like an offensive like weapon, but as like an inline physical guy that you can get on the field fairly early in his career. And he's already
actually
6'6".
Yeah,
Okay,
6'5", 240.
240.
Sheesh.
Right. The wide receivers will be interesting. I know, like Brent talked about, Dakari Anderson has some eye-popping numbers. It'll be interesting to see if Daniel James can, he's the highest rated guy in this class. Can he squeeze up to make an impact? You want to know the kind of sleeper name that I've heard some people talk about? Like, if he shows up like he played his senior year, he can make an impact.
Who we got?
You want to guess?
Just give me offense or defense.
Defense.
My guess would be either Coleman or Butler.
No.
Sabor?
No.
Barber.
Marquez Parker.
Okay,
6'3", 255 defensive lineman out of West Memphis, Arkansas.
Yep.
And they love his senior tape. How does it translate? We'll find out. But I know they're looking at him, licking their chops with potential.
56 tackles, 28 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbled, 1 touchdown. And he kicked the field goal. Wow.
Never know when you're going to need that.
Hey now.
Is Maj an early enrollee?
Yes.
Do you expect the staff to save some spots for the second portal period, or will they fill up early and fill that window with any spots that may come open from spring camp attrition?
That depends on what you can get. If you can get 14 guys that you really like, you get 14 guys that you really like, and you figure it out from there. Right now they're at what? 10, 9, 10? Something like that.
Yeah.
It is. So, I think you
8
figure out where you're at when the portal closes and you reassess.
Yes.
8. So, yeah.
8, yeah.
Is the coaching staff remaining intact? I would have anticipated changes to the coaches considering last year's performance.
So far, yes. It's been a very quiet cycle because there's not been a large number of head coaching changes. So you're not seeing the domino effect, impact college football with a bunch of, like, last year felt like chaos.
Well, we're also you haven't had the NFL changes yet. So once the NFL starts plucking some guys from the college ranks, that's when I think you'll start to see some of that domino effect that you're talking about.
And if we're being honest, guess what? They didn't win. So when you go 11-2, there's a lot of people that want to talk to you. When you go 9-3,
3-9.
3-9, I mean. When you go 3-9, the phone doesn't ring as much.
Yeah.
Brent, what do you think? Does our old buddy join our other old buddy now?
Our old buddy joined our other old buddy.
Yeah, Notre Dame just had
I
Jared
know
Parker
the
took a head
offensive
coaching
coordinator
job.
leave. Right,
You
just
get the Freeman Denbrock 1-2
oh,
connection
geez, you're
together.
talking about that. I was thinking they just promoted Gino in house.
Well, they moved him up for the bowl game,
Yeah,
but Mike Denbrock loves Notre Dame. Like genuinely, I think he's done at least 2 stints there, maybe 3.
didn't LSU just give him like the biggest contract of any?
Yeah, I think
OC
they,
has
well,
gotten?
yeah.
If that happens, are we watching some murder mystery show deconstruct why Luke Fickle actually murdered Marcus Freeman?
Denbrock's in LSU, like he's not at Wisconsin.
Just what's the tipping point?
It is crazy to see all the. I mean, that was great.
Those are look, those are Marcus's guys too.
Yeah,
What's the tipping point?
great coaching staff.
Oh boy. As of now, I've heard of no movement on the coaching staff.
What other college football teams use the outside zone scheme Satterfield has effectively? Brent, do you know anybody else who uses outside
Knowing
zone?
everybody's offensive scheme is not. I have enough
Not my
keeping up with
forte.
Cincinnati every day. Like, I don't think you guys realize how much goes into that.
If NCAA football was out already, I could tell you because I would have cycled through all the playbooks. However, they don't have it yet. Now, come July, we might be able to answer that question a little better. Come July, but
That'd be a good Dave question, but a quick Google what shows the Shanahan Kubiak outside zone heavy offense. I see mentions of NC State, App State,
Well, App State, obviously.
Baylor, Kansas, Buffalo, but they're saying wide zone for them.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, BYU, Miami.
which one?
I don't know.
Yeah,
No, I mean which.
That's
one?
why I didn't Google it, is because I don't trust that we're
Google?
talking about the same thing. No,
Right.
I don't trust that the answers are like some are talking that wide zone, that triple option looking thing. This is not that.
Well, now I'm seeing Josh Henson at USC. I don't know.
All right.
Monmouth. There you go. Monmouth.
That was the answer everyone was looking for. Well done, Brent.
We were waiting on that, Brent.
Thank you.
Roughly, how much of an NIL bank account does UC have to work with?
Don't know. Not a question I ask.
$1 billion.
Nobody's gonna. Here's the thing. It's not a question I ask because nobody's gonna answer it. And if they did answer it, I wouldn't be able to speak of it publicly. So
It helps no one for you to know. That's showing your hand, really. If you're recruiting against somebody else and they know what your budget is, it's not great.
Right. I don't know.
Will all the portal commits enroll in January? If not, which ones?
That's always the plan. And especially because you're not dealing, sometimes what happens is you're dealing with the grad transfer that has to graduate before they can transfer. There's no grad transferring here. You're dealing with guys that have multiple years of eligibility. So I would assume everybody so far that we know will be here in January.
See, somebody else in the chat also pumped for NCAA football. I'm not the only one who's a sicko on this stuff. Anyway,
I am pumped for it. You dream about it when you dream.
not all the time.
4 nights a week.
I don't remember all my dreams. Just that one. Will all of the portal already did that one. Is there a chance for a late surprise addition or two to the 2024 class, or is it pretty well set right now for Wednesday?
It's pretty well set. I think there could always be somebody that maybe isn't academically where they need to be. And the way the NCAA sets that stuff up is you're somewhat penalized, even though I don't even know anymore, because the 25 rule is out. But there could always be a late academic casualty. But from everything I have heard, it doesn't sound like any of the commits were on visits this past weekend. Nobody is sniffing around. So I would expect pretty much standard business as usual on Wednesday.
That wraps up the football portion of the mailbag. Moving on to the basketball portion of the mailbag. Does anyone think they need to play small? If not, what defense would you have for keeping the big lineup? Guess what? Defense?
Man to man. Man to man. I don't want to see zone. I don't think they have the roster to play zone. I watched them play it for 6 possessions, and I wanted to stab my neck with a hot knife.
It was rough, man.
I think
because obviously, if you don't hammer and practice zone, you're going to lose people in the zone, and they lost people every single possession with the zone. So, I mean, it's just communication's got to be at a high level during zone 2, and with as many substitutions and West trying to figure out the right lineup to have on Saturday, it was probably maybe a situation where the lineup on the court hadn't run much zone, or maybe they had, but I don't know. It didn't work out very well.
Figure out your best lineup to play defense and play them a lot.
Probably more than the other 5, yeah. Have you read Berg's thoughts today? It has stirred quite a debate. Number 1, can Vic play the 5? Number 2, can you play 2 of our bigs together? I think everyone agrees you need to get the rotation down to 7 to 8. Who are these players who runs the offense? I agree. I also don't think that.
7 or 8, like you're cutting 3 high major players out of your rotation.
I think 10 fresh legs are better than 7 to 8 gas.
Now,
how gassed are they? It's just.
I do think. Well, no, there is. You don't know. You've never played a 40-minute college basketball game.
Oh, I played a 40-minute intramural game one time. I was gassed.
Right. Anyhow, I think you do need to focus on 6 or 7 that are going to get the majority of the minutes, and then there is a secondary group, 7, 8, 9 that are going to get the leftovers. That they're still going to play 9 guys. People who you're taking, people are just throwing around. Dan Skillings out of the rotation.
I mean, like certain names make sense because they've got like a bulk of people at that certain position, but
sure.
But yeah, I don't think like Dan Skillings will be seeing his minutes evaporated.
CJ Frederick to the curb.
No, CJ Frederick needs to shoot more. That's what I.
What are we doing, people? Then there's a sentiment of people that there's a legit group of people that fully believe Victor Locken stinks. We watch a different sport. When the thing with the orange ball is happening on the telly, we are watching different things. If you think Vic stinks.
I'm not sure why you just flipped into a British accent for a moment, but
I liked it. I kind of dug. I dug it.
Jolly good day.
That's a way to really roll into that one.
Cheerio.
On the telly, you say.
George Washington the Third.
Oh.
Only.
Call back.
If only. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, 10 being wildly, how much does each of you think folks are overreacting about the team's struggles in the last week?
I get it. They played Xavier and Dayton, and at no point in either game were they in control. At no point in
Right.
either game over 80 minutes did you feel like Cincinnati's playing better
Right.
than the team across from them.
I think
I
it'd be a little different if that like Georgia Tech being that third one that people look at for reference is like that kind of sucks. Yeah, sure they beat Duke and they beat a bad Mississippi State
Sure.
team, but I mean Georgia Tech's not
Can you say
they're not
bad if
making
they
the
were
tournament.
ranked?
They aren't what?
Can you say bad if Mississippi State was ranked when they beat them?
I mean, North
They-
Carolina
they-
was the number one team in the country last year, and they were ranked. I mean, it's just I hate early season AP
This
polls.
early, yes, you can. Because a team can go from number 10 in the country to not receiving votes in like 2 weeks. Not with Cincinnati's schedule. But, you know,
I mean, Mississippi State lost to Southern the game after Georgia Tech.
not Southern Miss.
Southern, 245th.
General Southern. Like, all of it.
Yeah.
That sounds like kind of a formidable opponent. Southern.
A lot of
Like
options
University of Phoenix.
online. Who wants
Well, but that's
to play?
only a university of one town, Aaron. Or all of
No,
Phoenix.
University of Phoenix is all of the.
Actually, the University of Phoenix can only get students from Phoenix or any other city in America named Phoenix. That's it. Just like Southern can get all the people that are Southern.
Yeah, I heard they
Just
they
like playing Robert Morris, you only actually have to play one guy. Just Robert
Well,
Morris. There he
unless-
is.
Unless one guy is Robert, there's another Morris.
And then
out
there's
there.
the other guy, Morris. Yeah, you might have to play two guys in that situation.
Right.
Howard, just one guy. Seth
Stetson.
Downs. That was it.
Only Stetson Bennett's suiting up, lacing up the shoes.
Vic shoots 7 trays versus Xavier and makes 1. He shoots 5 more versus Dayton and goes over. That's 1 for 12 or 8.33% against top tier opponents. When he shoots a
Is this a
3,
riddle?
he is 23 feet from the basket
Okay.
versus crashing the boards for a rebound when, say, CJ shoots. Furthermore, his home road splits are brutal. Should Vic be shooting threes? P.S. If you add in the Howard game, only other non-fifth third game, Vic is 1 for 14 from 3 for a robust 7.1% in road and neutral site games. PSS, Vic is 9 for 19 at home from 3. That is a stellar 47.3%.
If you're going to have him shoot threes, you can't have him shoot threes at home and not. You don't have home and road offense.
Was that a riddle?
Yeah.
It was actually it was your burner account. You actually asked that question.
It's
in
like,
the mailbag.
and then how long will it take them to meet in the middle in Arkansas?
I thought it was how long will it take to ask the question?
Yeah, I mean it is crazy. Also, CJ Frederick is like one of something from I wrote it down. CJ Frederick 1-9 in the 3 games away from fifth third, 19 of 33 at home. That's like 57%, which is just bonkers. But yeah, as far as Vic and getting the offensive rebounds, Cincinnati has out rebounded every opponent they've faced this year. I don't think rebounding is too much of an issue. Yes, you want to have them down there for the rebounds and the putbacks. I think it's more.
But they're 23 in offensive rebound percentage and 2 in the nation in defensive rebounding percentage.
Right. Rebounding isn't really an issue. I do think you need Vic down low more for post touches, but as far as rebounding, I don't know. Obviously, it's going to be different when the Big 12 play starts, but as of right now, I'd say rebounding is far from an issue for the team.
Shooting is the bigger issue, period.
Yeah.
That's the end of the basketball portion of the mailbag. The last portion of the mailbag here, we'll start with Cincy fan. Any word on the Big 12 Pro Day? Was such a down year for UC football. I'm sure it's important, especially this year, for the seniors to have a chance to show their measurables in front of the NFL scouts.
No, I don't have any word on that yet.
We'll
The Big
keep you
12 has not
updated, though.
released any of that information. As soon as we have it, you will hear about it.
And the last question in the mailbag from Skins. Merry Christmas. I'm assuming you are not doing a pod next Monday, as it will be Christmas Day. Self-checkout or cashier at the grocery store?
Cashier. I like human
funny-
interaction.
Funny story about that. Our Kroger here in Athens just got some new like self-checkout that has like the conveyor belt. And I
Oh,
put a bag of cat food on there today, and it kept putting it. The conveyor was going back towards me. I don't know what was happening, so I launched it down, and then it still came back. I didn't know. The light started blinking. The lady wouldn't come over and help us, so we just left and went to an actual cashier.
this man is illegally trying to buy cat food.
I was launching the cat food down. It was the stupidest thing in my life. Never again.
I do like human interaction as well, Chad. But self checkout, man, it's like, oh, I'm good. At
Well, it
this.
depends on like if I got like 2 or 3 things, if I'm just going to get something, of course,
Right.
self-checkout.
Yeah.
If I got a card, look, here's the other thing. Do I get a discount for bagging my own shit?
Nah.
No, then I'm taking advantage of the service that I'm paying for. I will stand there. I will do the work to put it on the conveyor belt.
Mhm.
Y'all got it from there.
Generally
Not my
speaking,
job.
generally speaking, I got a baby with me, so yeah, no, I'm letting somebody else do that.
If I'm paying for it, I'm going to use it. You don't get free labor from me.
All right. 10 things I hate about you or Princess Diaries.
I don't know that I've ever seen Princess Diaries. I have seen 10 Things I Hate About You. It's okay. Didn't hate it.
I'll say 10 things I hate about you. Brent?
Brent has definitely seen both of these movies.
Oh yeah. Shouts to Heath Ledger. Obviously when he's singing up on the stands at the football field, can't take my eyes off of you. 10 Things I Hate About You, one of the best scenes out there in any rom-com chick flick. Princess Diaries, man, that's a good one. Anne Hathaway, obviously one of her early rises. But there's a lot of confusion in Princess Diaries where she's a princess but doesn't know it, and it kind of has a weird like upbringing, and then figures it out. This, that, and the other. 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah, I've never seen Princess Diaries. You get to make a first impression with someone of the opposite sex, and you can either have a first phone call and you sound like Gilbert Gottfried, R.I.P., or meet in person and you look like Danny DeVito and cannot talk for the first minute. Which do you choose?
Ooh, this is brutal.
These are dreadful.
I mean, if you look like Danny DeVito, can you just pretend you're Danny DeVito?
Does that actually
the
work
most
in your
Brent
favor?
Answer ever.
Does that
Yes,
actually
Danny
work in your
DeVito.
favor?
Danny DeVito is very rich, Aaron, so it does work in your favor.
And everyone loves Always Sunny too, so it's like, oh,
I don't know how many chicks watch Always Sunny.
Danny DeVito. Yeah, my girlfriend loves it. Yeah.
Because did she love it before she met you, or did she start to love it because she was with somebody that?
Well,
Brent's clearly biased in this question.
Right, 1,000%. I think I could pull. Like, do I really sound that much far off from Gilbert Gottfried most of the time?
When you get loud, it's as obnoxious.
Right.
yeah.
So I think I can pull off the Gilbert Gottfried thing.
Yeah, you can
Sure.
kind of change your tone here and there too.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
try to slow it down.
The
for 'em.
Danny DeVito thing, if you take out like impersonating Danny DeVito, and you're not rich, like you lose the one benefit of being Danny DeVito.
Well,
Right.
it says you meet in person and you look like Danny DeVito and cannot talk for the first minute. Do you stay looking like Danny DeVito after that first minute of mute?
Ooh,
I would assume so, yes.
that's
Do
a
you
good
turn
point.
back into yourself? And are you always like Danny DeVito for the rest of time, or are you normal the second date? In which case,
Yeah,
was
he
it
didn't
really
provide
a first
enough
date?
information.
That's a
Was
good
it really
point.
a first date?
Aaron, you have not taken this deep of an approach to a question before. I like it. Is it like you kiss the frog, it turns into a prince? Is that a scenario?
Like
we're
after
looking
a
at here?
minute, everything's back to normal. Yeah, that would, I could stall for a minute.
This is all a first impression question. So even with the phone call with Gilbert Gottfried, and you call back after the first phone call and you're like, look, my friend had my phone. This is actually my voice, right?
Unless you're me and you still sound like Gilbert Gottfried.
Well, and that's a whole different ball.
You know that show I think you should leave with Tim Robinson. I has that one. You're just making like sounds for the first minute, and you're kind of like, okay, this guy's kind of funny.
No clue what you're talking
Danny
about.
DeVito, he's pretty funny. I think you should leave. You've never seen it?
No.
Oh wow!
Literally, my TV's not even on. I couldn't tell you. I think my TV was last on Saturday.
Netflix.
I
I think you should leave.
Oh, is that the? You sure about that?
Yeah.
That guy? Yeah.
You're sure about that?
I got you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
have
it's
seen it.
hilarious.
I forgot the name of that show.
You got to watch it. Oh, it's so
I
fun.
have seen it.
So
I only watched the first season. I haven't seen the second one. Get us out of here, Brent. And before we go, what are we doing for Christmas next week?
Merry Christmas.
Well,
no show next Monday.
I can't do Sunday. I've got family stuff all night. So Sunday's out. Monday's out.
Tuesday night it
Christmas.
is.
Tuesday
there's
is
a game
George,
Tuesday.
George in the Jungle. There's a game Tuesday. So I guess we're taking a week off. Which is not something we ever do.
Can't do Sunday either. I cannot do Monday either.
Right? Tuesday's out.
No game.
Tuesday.
No game on
Wednesday.
Tuesday. There isn't a game Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no
We could
game on
potentially
Tuesday.
do Tuesday. We just have to talk to George.
Maybe we have George.
Bring George on the BBP, a little crossover.
Not sure how that looks for sponsors, but I'm sure we can get all the reads in. Just have to deal with a couple.
We'll just add read. Yeah, it's just one read we'd have to add. We'd have to add the George read, which
Remington
sure-
Tavern. Yeah,
I'm sure Remington Tavern would appreciate the BBP bump on Tuesday.
yeah
Maybe we'll aim for a crossover episode Tuesday, and see where it goes.
Ryan's usually. I feel like around holidays, Ryan's usually gone for about a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's working late tonight. Like, it might just be the four of us. It might just be maybe we just tell Ryan, hey, take next week off. And
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. So we'll be here next week. We don't take weeks off. No weeks off on the BBP.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. But hey, man, signing day this week. Obviously, a lot going on.
Locked and loaded.
Games.
We're gonna have a ton going on at Bearcat Journal. So
it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Be there.
A really good class, guys. It truly is. A lot of guys that I think you can really give a tip of the cap to the talent evaluation of the recruiting staff as well, because a lot of guys that had really good senior tape. So stay locked into BCJ as we bring you all that info throughout signing day. This week, two basketball games as mentioned. Tomorrow night, the old Merrimack whatever's coming to town. And then, of course, on Friday night, it is Stetson coming to town as well.
The Merrimack whatevers.
The Merrimack Warriors, coached by one Joey Gallo. He's struggling to hit home runs, but he's coaching the Merrimack Warriors to a 5-6 record so far this year. Yeah, so we'll see how they do. And then, of course, as we mentioned, Stetson on Friday. Donnie Jones, the Hatters. But, yeah, so quick shout out, of course, to our guys over at Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Shout out to Quick Paper Supply and shout out to Home Field Apparel. But for my broadcast partners, my pals, the BCJ boys, that's right. Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, and of course, shouts to Ryan Royer. Sad they missed out on this one. But a Merry Christmas to everyone. And again, it's another in a happy New Year, potentially, or a happy holidays. But another fantastic BBP presented by BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!